نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has obligated Muslims to pray 5 times a day, and there is specific fard prayer that we are required to offer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After puberty, it becomes wajib, fard, compulsory for every individual. Now, there are sunnah prayer which are called rawatib, mandubat, nafl. Different terms are used for them. Anything which is other than compulsory is called nafl, sunnah, the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as he is so considerate and compassionate for the humanity, and knowing the value of prayer and how it should be offered to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and realizing the weakness of his ummah, that would be very difficult to offer the prayer in the best form, he supported us by these extra prayers other than fard prayer. So you will see that every fard action tends to be supplemented with some nafil action before and after, or before or after. The reason is one has to perform these faraid in the best way, and that's quite difficult to achieve. So when we do some sunnah at the beginning, before the fard begins, it brings us into the state of getting connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The concentration is there. We get a bit of head start. We just get into this mood of praying properly, detaching ourselves from the material world. And then once we have done our 2 or 4 sunnahs, then we do our fard. So the fard become much more protected. And whatever is the shortcomings left is then compensated by the sunnah or nafil afterwards. Same goes with our other action. For example, fasting. Although fasting tends to be easily done with sincerity, without any show off, without any weaknesses, generally, because it is quite a hidden action. You can't show off much actually. So, Alhamdulillah, even then, you would have the fast of Rajab, fast of Dhul Qada, Dhul Hijjah every month. Before that, 3 days Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would do. But Laylatul Nisf min Sha'ban, or say 3 fasts in the month of Sha'ban before Ramadan. And then you do Ramadan, get used to fasting, come to the realization that that's part of my life. And once you start doing Fard Ramadan fasting and you've completed it, afterwards there may be some weaknesses left, as human being would make mistakes obviously. Then that will be compensated by our six fasting of Shawwal as extra. Likewise, before you do your main Hajj, which is Arafah and Tawaf al-Ziyarah, Tawaf al-Ifada, the final main arkan of Hajj, you have some before and some after, some tawafs before and some after that. And likewise carries on. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encourages us to perform our prayer in the best way, to come near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, gets pleasure. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam supported us by adding prayer and good deeds before and after it, to ensure that the middle bit, which is the main bit, is protected and done in the best form by all individual. So that's a mercy from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When you realize that, then that becomes so much more easy. To encourage people, to incentivize them, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said anyone who performs 12 rakat in a day, other than the fard prayer, then a palace would be built for him in Jannah. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would not leave those sunnah and pray them very regularly. They are highly recommended. Sunnah mu'akkada. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would encourage ummah to do that. Leaving that on a regular basis is going to be sinful, is not appropriate. It is not a sign of loyalty. Now, during travel, since there is hardship, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has eased from ummah and made them do only fard prayer and even cut short the 4 rakat into 2. So Dhuhr, Asr and Isha becomes 2 rakat. Fajr is 2 anyway, can't short any further. Maghrib is 3, so it's easy, not too burdensome, and it's short anyway because there's lesser qira'at done. And finally, witr, according to Hanafis, is wajib, so you have to do that as well. But as the travel is getting easier and much more comfortable these days, and while someone is on the journey, they obviously have no choice but to do only faraid and move on. But when they're stationary, they live in a hotel, at some relative's house, wherever they find a place to live, they are generally comfortable. Talking about middle class people who are traveling from UK back home or USA to back home or in another part of the world, they tend to be well settled, other than having some tiredness of the travel, which is not a huge amount, literally few hours worth of sleep is sorted out. They have not got to do anything manually. They are back to normal. And when they are in the hotel, they find it very easy to perform prayer, inshallah ta'ala. So if someone doesn't perform any of his sunnah mu'akkada and only performs the fara'id in shortened form, that is perfectly fine and they are not blameworthy. There's no sin, neither major nor minor. So they have this exemption, which is completely fine. Yet, they would not be rewarded for those sunnah that they've missed. So the question is, a sensible person who was given this allowance because of tiredness, exhaustion of the journey, stress of the journey, they would take that advantage when they are in need of. For most people, the journey is just a fun, and it is not terrible. They don't have to do a lot of sacrifices there. They just do, mashallah, a normal travel via car or you know buses or even plane, train. So since they find it easy to recover from that journey literally within few hours of rest after reaching their destination, it makes much more sense to not miss out on those nawafil, on those extra prayer that would benefit them and help them on the day of judgment, because it is even easier when they have got not much to do. In holidays, they are just doing things on a voluntary basis. They're not working, they haven't got to do much, things are planned for them, and it's relatively easier to do extra nawafil in order to make up for the missed prayer, in order for them to have some extra reward. So if someone wants to do it, it's perfectly fine. There are certain imams who would suggest that rather than doing this, we would do our fard full, which according to other imams is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as two, and you'll still be rewarded for 4. So you shouldn't be rejecting the gift of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by saying that we'll do 4. We should do 2 rakat of Dhuhr, Asr and Isha, and yet when time permits, when we are not traveling, when we are stationary, when we have got not much plans, inshallah ta'ala we do some nawafil and sunnah. Why not? So some Imams have considered it to be not required or not recommended, but according to Hanafis, it is not just recommended, it is good practice. You should try and keep accumulating all the rewards, the more, the better, and that way they can win. Now, obviously, on the day of judgment, they're not going to be penalized for doing that. That's the extra nafil they could do anyway. So, what could be better nafil than what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would have recommended? Now, one may ask, has Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam ever performed those? So, remember the journeys those in those days were quite difficult. But even then, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam never missed two sunnah muakkada of Fajr even during travel. He would offer those two sunnah as sunnah muakkada even during travel. So that is the reason why performing those sunnah during travel is not wrong or not completely impermissible or not something blameworthy as some people think, which is up to them. But inshallah ta'ala, there is definitely allowance for that. And I think the status of Ummah is such that we do not get chance to do extra prayer anyway. And when we do with our work commitments and other commitments, our stress, our business in life is such that we don't get enough concentration. So when we get that chance, we should not miss out on this, inshallah ta'ala. May Allah give us tawfiq to do as much ibadat as possible. Prayer is the mi'raj of mu'min. Prayer is something that would connect us to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In our sujood, we get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So one shouldn't take it as a burden, rather try as much as possible. Having said that, it is not fard and they would not be sinful if they opt for not doing it. The sunnah muqaddas or any sunnah if they leave during travel, that's perfectly fine. Obviously, they would not be rewarded, but no, will they be sinful for this? May Allah give us tawfiq.